When it comes to a brand that pioneered action cameras into the consumer market, it has to be GoPro. The GoPro Hero3 Plus Black Edition is their latest revision and highest model available in their product range. For me, it's actually the first time using a GoPro action camera and actually having a good play around with it. So for those considering purchasing one of these GoPros, I highly recommend you watch this entire video as it's going to provide you with a really good insight to how the actual camera works. My name is Mohammed Skaka, and if you haven't yet, please make sure to subscribe to this channel, give this video a massive thumbs up as we get into this video review. The GoPro Hero 3 Plus Black Edition features a slightly smaller form factor than its previous generations. The device has quite a small compact shape in this rectangular form factor. The front of the device houses the lens, which we will talk about later, LCD screen, power slash, mode button, and 2 LEDs. The LEDs actually indicate different information. One blinks red to indicate recording, while the other blinks blue to indicate Wi-Fi is enabled. The Wi-Fi can be enabled or disabled by holding down the Wi-Fi button on the left side of the GoPro for a few seconds. The Wi-Fi is a key feature that I use nearly all the time. However, it does have a downside. It significantly reduced the battery life of the GoPro. Without Wi-Fi, I was getting just over an hour of recording time at 1080p, while with it enabled only about 30 minutes. However, that was with heavy use connected to the GoPro app. The reason I used the Wi-Fi was to connect the device to my smartphone. It works simple and it's great. It allows you to see what the camera sees and adjust all settings accordingly. It's a much simpler way to control the settings of the device, and I never really found myself adjusting anything using the on-screen LCD, which I personally found a little bit disorientating. The Wi-Fi connection also allows you to transfer recorded files from the camera over to your phone for easy sharing. It gives you the option of either copying a low quality file for quick transfer or a full original file for highest quality possible, but this can take quite a long time. It is nice to see both features being offered. The top of the camera features the record button and microphone. However, there is also a mic located on the left side near the Wi-Fi on and off button. The right side features a cover that removes for access to HDMI out and USB port for both transfer of footage and charging. Along the side of those two is a micro SD port. Now, in order to enable the high quality of recording, you must use a class 10 SD card, most likely a 32 gig, as 5 minutes in terms of clip recording at 1080p is about 1 gigabyte. The rear of the camera also houses the battery, which is easily removed, and a specific GoPro designed port for their own designed accessories, as well as having an LED indicator light on the top, bottom, front, and rear to show what you are recording. What interested me the most about the GoPro was just how well it performed in comparison to a DSLR. So I tried to replicate the same settings that I would have set up in my own Canon 60D by using the Wi-Fi feature enabled on the GoPro. So I set up 1080p, 24 frames per second, and a wide field of view, and we're going to check out how the sample footage actually looked right now. The footage you see now was recorded at around dusk time when a friend took me for a ride on a snowmobile. I didn't want to use the super wide feature, which is a new feature on the camera, purely because it makes the image look a bit stretched. If you're recording a person, it just makes you look wider than you really are, and I know no one wants to look fat. The camera, in my opinion, does a good job to maintain a stable, clear and sharp image, considering just how bumpy the ride was, and plus the fact that my hand was shaking from the cold. The exposure of the image was set correctly to replicate the brightness or light available at the time. It was an over bright image, but can be seen that I was recording around dusk. The camera has a big array of settings when it comes to footage, including the ability to record in 4K and use something called Protune. I didn't test the 4K footage as I only had a 4 gig micro SD card, but I see them targeting this camera for high-end video production based on these features available. However, bear in mind that it's only 15 frames per second. So really, the 2.7K recording at 30 frames per second is what I would say usable footage. Now Protune, which is also offered, is very similar to RAW when it comes to taking photos, as it allows you to have more control over how the image will look in post. Again, I didn't really test this feature out as I didn't really have the time or patience, and as I'm sure most consumers buying this camera won't, but it's nice to see. There are also a wide array of recording modes, FPS settings and slow motion options. The only downside is I couldn't find 120 frames per second at 1080p, that was only available at 720p. The nighttime indoor footage was excellent, I couldn't fault it. The auto low light mode works great, the detail in the image was good, sharpness was spot on, exposure was good, and even the audio quality is clean considering the camera was in the waterproof housing. Now this audio test is actually without anything over the Hero 3, all microphones clearly exposed into the environment, so if you end up buying an accessory that can hold the Hero 3 without the waterproof housing, then this is the sound quality that you can expect. Now looking at some sample images, you can see the 12 megapixel shooter does an okay job. I found the images to be okay, but most people will end up using their smartphone to take photos instead. Included with the GoPro Hero 3 Plus Black Edition is a 40-meter waterproof housing. This housing snaps onto the GoPro Hero 3 Plus quite easily, and I didn't have any problems with the design, and I really like this new latch that they actually set up on this camera. I especially like the fact that they give you a skeleton housing for the back. This means if you don't need the waterproofing, but you want to get better sound, for example, if I wanted to record my Supra boosting through the hills, I can replace the back cover with it and it will give me better audio. I really appreciate this, as the Sony action cam that I previously used mounted just would not offer this level of sound quality. You will also get a Wi-Fi remote, which is pretty cool. The Wi-Fi remote charging cable, 3-way pivot arm, single curved and single flat adhesive mounts, as well as the USB cable. The GoPro enabled me to do something that I just wouldn't do with any other camera. Even though I'm really protective and careful with most of my technology, I didn't actually feel sorry with knocking the camera about. So that means chucking it into snow, putting it on a snowboard, riding around with it, dumping it into water, just because it felt quite solid and able to hold up to those certain circumstances. Due to being on the market for such a long time, the GoPros actually have quite a vast array of accessories and have been proven in its field. Not only that, but it's a very small and quite compact camera, and it's one of the smallest cameras that offer this vast array of resolution and FPS settings, which I was really confident with using in really any situation. The only real downside for me with the GoPro is the price. Now I'll put a link in the description linking you to the best available price of the product at the moment. However, considering you'll have to purchase a most likely spare battery, suction cup, micro SD card, and some form of accessory depending on what you're shooting, it can add up to be a quite expensive action camera. And considering a lot of the really high professional cameras have dropped down in price so much, it's really a specific niche that you are fulfilling. Personally, I would be more inclined to recommend the GoPro Silver Edition to most people, because I don't really think you'll utilize the 4K recording or the Super View mode. And the only real advantage with the Black Edition apart from that is the auto low light optimization, which from what I've seen on sample footage and comparisons on YouTube doesn't actually provide that much of a difference. So for most people who don't need that also thrown in remote control, I'd be more inclined to recommend the Silver Edition to be your best bang for buck. The GoPro Hero Black Edition 3 is the best action camera I ever used, and I'm willing to recommend it if you're able to afford it. Now on the other side, there are some negatives of the camera, like I would have liked to seen a longer battery life. I also would have liked to see some form of better on-screen navigation, because the LCD is quite fiddly to use. Not only that, but the accessories for the GoPro 3 are pretty expensive, so bear in mind that with any purchasing that you're going to be taking place. If this video review helped you out with your purchasing decision, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, as it does help us out and provide us with great support. If you haven't yet, please make sure to give this video a massive thumbs up. My name is Mohammed Skaka, and peace be with you.